All right, 3, 2, 1. Sa.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh, my hair. Jesus. Welcome back to season 3 of the Casual Cats podcast.
Number 3. We made it. We did we did it.
We did it. We
Give
did it.
yourselves a round of applause. This is because of you guys. You guys did this
Gail and
season 3.
John. Yeah, two people.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
too.
Mm,
You 2 or 3.
yes.
Today, I don't know why we didn't do this episode sooner. I guess it's just
Yeah.
it's a seasonal thing. It's magic. It's
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
These things. I don't know if the light's gonna reflect the cards, so I'm not gonna hold up any cards, but you know, it's a trading card game. You know, we both play it. How many years have you been playing Magic now? When did you get? Did we get into it at the same time
Around about
or?
the same time, 2011, 2012, I think. I was talking to
That's
Galen.
about
So
right,
we
yeah.
all got into around the same. You got into a bit before me, and then Galen got into it the same time that I did. So
Yeah, I had a group of friends. Uh, what was it first? It was Magic first, definitely, and then we played Magic, and then eventually that evolved to Dungeons and Dragons, and then you just like right down the nerd slide. But
Mm.
yeah, yeah. What is it? You know, trading card game. What's good about it? Well, you know, it's competition. You build a deck. I think the deck customization is probably one of its best features of the game because you just have the rules is there's 5 colors of mana. You can play 1 land per turn that will net you a mana on your turn when you use it, and then depending on the colors that you have available to you and the cards that you've drawn, you can play the cards, and those cards will synergize. It's very Yu-Gi-Oh-esque, very Pokemon-esque, but it's got, you know, it's by Wizards of the Coast, which is, you know, arguably like a terrible company, but yeah, they
Very
get
good
some
one.
good artists. You know, people they
Mm.
employ people who are not terrible people, so like they got some
Yeah.
good artists. You get flavor art on the cards. They look good. You can argue about, you know, the market prices of the cards and stuff, but you know, we'll go into that, right? It's a fun time
Yeah.
to sit around the table, you know, with your friends and just slam out some spells, you know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a cool because for me when I get into it, like obviously we grew up, we're in this generation here, and anybody watching probably is too, growing up with Pokemon cards, and then we got into Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and they were kind of cooler. But yeah, Magic, it was at first, like when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, like here's another fucking money pit, like, you know, like, and but it's a really cool game, and there's kind of like you can kind of develop an identity, I guess. I mean, most people have many different kinds of decks, but you'll usually gravitate towards one play style. I mean, we should start to explain, I guess, for people who don't know
Mm.
how it works. So there's 5 colors in Magic. There's blue, black, red, green, and white, and there's also colorless, which is kind of like a 6 spell. But
Yeah.
those are your 5 main colors that you play with, and they each kind of have an identity. You know, maybe Leaky, you can go over kind of, you're a little more well
Ye-
versed than I am.
So like red is like we're just gonna like do some damage to some stuff. We're gonna burn some stuff. It's like typically the what would you call it? The typical red deck is known as like a burn deck. It focuses on dealing like direct damage to either creatures on the battlefield or the player themselves. And before we go, well, there's a number of ways to win Magic. The most common way is reducing the opponent's life to 0. Depending on what kind of like format you're playing, you might have 40 life or 20 life or whatever. And then the other ways are like mill, which you have like your library, which you're drawing from each turn. If there's ever no cards in your library and you are forced to draw, you like lose the game. um, there's a couple other ones as well, but yeah. So red focuses on dealing direct damage. Blue is known for its ability to control, to remove, put cards that are on the battlefield back to their owner's hands, to cast counter spells that stop cards from going in and destroy them before they hit the battlefield, drawing cards. Me and Jim both identify a lot with the blue because of the, you know, control element, or just like
Hmm.
it's it kind of draw card is known as acceleration. and any acceleration makes a good deck. Like decks with acceleration are very very fun to play, because you're getting more cards than your opponents are. Like you know, it's an accelerated play. It's speedy. Then you've got white, which is like life gain, small, massive army of creatures or whatever, like normally done through like generating tokens and stuff. Green is known for like it's large creatures, big beast threats on the battlefield that you know, if it comes, you know, toe to toe with any other creature, you know, sometimes will trample over it.
Ramp too. They definitely
Ramp, yes.
ramping mana.
Ramp mana gain. So green will have acceleration in the form of mana ramp. Either they get more lands and are allowed to play more than one land per turn, or they get like creatures that will tap for mana. As well, artifacts you will see used as mana rocks, because you can pay any mana to bring them in the field, and a lot of them have an ability which can net you some mana. But anyways, black is about like sacrificing stuff, just being a general dick. He's just like a just rotten piece of shit, kind of. You know, just black. But it's so effective too. Like, so black will typically have something like, you know, sacrifice one of your creatures, but then destroy one of the opponents. And then, but you'll have like another thing that says like whenever you sacrifice a creature, you gain life equal to its toughness. So you're really like gaining life, and so. Anyways, black also has like discard cards, so there's some actual meta manipulation in black as well. Black blue we were talking about just before we started has a lot of that. That's everything, right? Like white blue.
Yeah.
And artifacts can be anything. Cards will have activated abilities too once you've played them. So each color kind of has their own themes and stuff, and each set that comes out too carries its own theme. So it's hard to pick down or pin down exactly what every color does. But you know, the Magic community they categorize the different color combinations in a bunch of in guilds. So the 2 color combinations are like, you know, there's like white blue, red white, blue black, etc. Blue black is known as Dimir, red whites is Boros. You can look them up. We won't go over them all, but there's a specific name for every 3 color, and even the 4 colors we actually learned today. And then you have a 5 color, and like, you know, when you're building your deck, your playability is based on how many land you're going to have on the field, kind of generally. So if you're doing a 5 color, you have this sometimes issue where you draw all your cards that require green mana, but you didn't draw any green mana. So that's where the deck customization and the identity that Jim was talking about kind of comes into play. Do you want to, you know, build a deck that facilitates all 5 mana? So that you can play any card ever and then get the greatest combination? Or do you like specialize in 2 or 3 color cards, or even 4? 4 is very rare. I don't know if I've never made a 4 color deck. I don't know if Jim, have you ever considered making a 4 color deck?
No.
In drafts, like, I guess maybe.
Yeah, if you were like, if you're doing a draft, which is essentially just grabbing a bunch of random cards and throwing something together. But yeah, no, I get my allegiance usually has been strictly to blue, black as well. I've gone between strictly blue and strictly black decks. We were just talking before. I might edit my deck that I have. I've only got 1 deck now. Magic's expensive, as we alluded to earlier. It's a fucking money pit. But there are some formats that are better than others. But for instance, like we play EDH, I think mainly. Don't we? Like, isn't that mainly what you play?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna be talking to too many modern players. I think Galen's the only one I know.
Oh,
Galen Brennan, maybe.
Pat is here, Terrain Beast. Hello,
Nice.
hello, Patrick. So I guess not to digress too much from the different color combinations, but there's different game styles as well within Magic. So there's Standard, which is kind of like the last couple, like the most recent release sets back. I think it was like 5 or 6 sets or something. And then there's Modern, which usually encompasses, I think it's like 10 or 12 sets back. And then I think you have, there's 2 more. The last one is now called Historic, which is like an all-encompassing.
But that used to be Legacy?
And no, there's Legacy too. So there's Legacy. And I think there's Historic. So the Magic goes back to like 1992 or 1993. Like, it's a fairly old like card game. Um, and the one that we play is called Commander, or EDH is what it used to be called. And essentially how it works is you get there's creatures, there's spells, there's artifacts, there's sorceries, there's instants. We'll get into all that, but essentially I'll show you my commander. Hopefully this people can see this. This thick boy right here. It's gonna be backwards, isn't it? God damn it. Anyway, his name is Kami of the Crescent Moon. See that thick boy there sitting right in the moon. So, but he's a legendary creature. So with Commander, what you can do is you select a legendary creature, or I guess now creature, enchantment, etc., or planeswalker. A legendary creature, planeswalker, and that is your commander. And now your deck has to be based around those commander's colors. So Kami is blue, only blue, so I can only use blue cards in my commander deck. And that's when the multicolor aspect comes in, and commander,
or colorless.
Sorry, colors as well. But the
that's another reason why you wouldn't see too many 4-color decks, probably too, because I think it's very rare to find a 4-color creature only.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I guess the card sizes too. So for your typical Magic deck, I guess we don't want to digress too far. I guess we're going to get into this at some point anyway.
Well, we could tell, like, Commander is different from standard play in that standard play you can have 4 of any one card, except for lands. You can have as many. It's typically a 60-card size deck, and then you're drawing, like, you're at 20 life, you're drawing, and then you just, everything's basically the same. With Commander, you've got your legendary creature, which sits in a command zone. You've got a 100-card deck. It's singleton, unless you have like a specific card that says you can have more than or any amount, like the apostle there, apostate apostle or whatever there. And then you have that color limitation. You got 40 life, but 21 damage from any single general will also kill you. And that's called commander damage. And then every time you summon your commander from the command zone, like every subsequent time, it has a cumulative. It has the upkeep or whatever. Like it's 2 mana upkeep.
Yeah,
cumulative
yeah,
upkeep. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
And so so yeah. And it's great fun. And the reason it's so fun, if I could just say, why Commander is so much better than Standard in every single fucking way,
my God,
is that Standard is way too consistent, and in that sense, your play sets, like we talked about it being expensive, if you proxy Standard, it's great. It's fucking great. Or if you proxy, Standard. I'm not talking about Modern. I'm just talking about 60-card decks. But you can make some fucking bullshit Standard decks. There's a win on turn 0. There's turn 0 wins where it's like, if it's not your turn, you start with this land in play, and then you can like discard these cards to get mana to play this thing, which dies when it comes into play. But when it dies, you search for like 6 1/1s or something. You bring them all into place. Then somebody takes like 38 damage before they play their first land, and it's like, okay, good game. That's dumb, right? You can't really do that. The Green Hawk deck, you can't really do shit like that in EDH. Now, post the decks. I want to see them. If you got them, post them.
Right.
I'll look at them. I enjoy that kind of shit. But it's much harder. And then you have like the singleton. Like there's so much more theme to your commander. It's like, you showed your commander. I got one right here. It's Kraj. He's an ooze.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can see him with the light there, but one second. Okay, so he's like an ooze.
Experiment Kraj.
So his big meme is he can tap. So anyone who doesn't know Magic, tap is turn sideways to attack. You have to turn him sideways to sometimes use abilities. You have to turn sideways. It's got a little tap symbol right there. It's like an arrow turning. Anyways, you tap him. You target a creature, any creature. You put a +1/+1 counter on it. That creature gets bigger. Cool, right? Kraj gets his ability. Any activated abilities that creature has. So I'm just spurging over my goddamn Kraj right now, but it's nice. It's sick. Okay, so the theme of him is that he just like mutates into everything, right? So with Simic, there's a lot of graft creatures, which is like they move +1/+1 counters around. Like Cytoplasm Manipulator, that one takes a control of a creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. So Kraj facilitates the +1/+1 counter being there for this creature to like take control of it. So that's like a synergy there. I've got another ooze guy in here that like for every ooze you get, he gets and so it's just I don't know. There's this theme that you can go with EDH, which I suppose would exist in standard too, but I don't know. It just seems like it's more fun to build. The deck building is so much more enjoyable, I think.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It kind of each card is worth more. Like you can run these with like 60 card deck, like you get multiples of the cards and stuff, but like every card kind of has its own identity a little bit, and yeah, and you can build a deck like that where every single card you draw is exciting, and there's different philosophies with deck building, but with EDH, I find that's I don't know, it just and in multiplayer too. So in Magic, this is obviously a game you want to play with your friends. So having a friend group that plays Magic is important, or getting your friend group into Magic. And probably the best way to get them into Magic is to buy some starter 60 card decks and just learn how to play the game. Like when we all learned to play, what some of my other friends that we started with did was we got some starter decks. We sat down at his mom's kitchen table, and we just went at it, and we learned the basic rules. The thing with Magic is you're never going to know all the rules. So even in a multiplayer setting with some people you don't know, don't stress about the rules too much, because someone's always going to know more than you. There are fucking like judges that get paid in special cards and that specialize. Some of these guys do this for a living in just trying to understand the rule set of Magic. It's really complicated, but learning the basics is really easy. And buying one of the starter decks, it's like what, 25, $30 or something now. They're pretty cheap. Yeah. And just get that and just play together. And then you can feel out and see what you like too. And like we just described, I mean, if we were talking about this before, you were talking about this, Leaky, but about like people, you can kind of like suss out somebody like just through their personality, probably what color combination they're going to fall into, what their intentions are.
Yeah, there is a color combination that will meet your specific interests in stuff. Yeah, we were talking about how like one thing in the vein of getting your friends into Magic, one thing that is a nice little experiment to do, or not experiment, but you just ask them if they, like hypothetically, if you were a wizard, and there's a lot of Harry Potter going on right now, I know, but let's try to keep it out of Hogwarts, right? But if you were a wizard, how would you what would your spells be? Like, how would you defeat your opponent? And then maybe how would you stop them from defeating you or something like that? Or would that be a priority, I guess, really? Because like there's like, because in that sort of realm, there's two, there's like an offensive capabilities and defensive capabilities, and maybe if you phrase the question differently, you'd get like a different answer. But yeah, generally you can kind of catch on to the theme, and there will be like color combinations that will definitely fit, right? We talked about red burning, so if their interest is to call like a comet down or something like that, then that would be like a red. A hint to red. But if they say I summon a sword and then I go and I slice them, well, that's an equipment, and white does a lot of like equipment stuff, but then you've got like anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had another thought about starting the game. So yeah, that's how I started too with the decks. From you just go to Walmart, you get like a deck, and it gives you two like battle guys, and you fight and stuff like that, and the rules, they'll give you a little rule packet in there, which is very helpful, because all of the rules that those decks, any of the engagements in those decks will be covered on the thing, so you can kind of like and then you start, you can do the old-fashioned buy the boosters. There's fun in buying boosters, I guess, if you got the money, and there's like, it's that little like lotto. But eventually you will come to realize that that's not the way you make the deck stronger.
It's not the way.
And the way you're gonna make that deck stronger is you're gonna go and there's gonna be a man behind a counter and he's gonna have a beard and he might have glasses and he might be a little over, weight.
Overweight.
And and he
Yeah.
and he's gonna but here's the thing, don't judge him on any of that because you're gonna say, listen, dog, what's the deal with red white? Can I get a budget red white? Can blah blah blah. And then he's gonna be like, yep. And now of course, mind you, he's gonna want to sell you all the expensive cards, and he might even think about, oh, these cards are going down in price, I want to get them out of my thing. So there might be a little bit of bias, but basically you're gonna walk away with a deck that's gonna demolish that starter deck that your friend has, right? So then what happens is that happens, right? You'll go and you'll play, and then you're like, I got a couple cards for my red white. The guy at the store helped me out. And your friends will be, oh, cool. Sure, let's see what's going on. And then on turn 4, you're like, 15 double strike, and so then your friends go, okay, well that's stupid, but let's do another game or whatever. And then
Yeah.
turn 4, turn 5, 15 double strike again, 30 damage on board. And so your friends are going to go home. They're going to say, well, this game kind of sucks now. What happened? Oh, he went to the store and he talked about getting some cards. And so two things are going to happen. Either they're going to do the exact same thing, or they're going to go online and they're going to build their own deck. Then they're going to go looking for those cards. And so now you have this play group, which is everyone's kind of either spending money or doing research or improving the decks, right? And so now there's like this power sort of grind amongst you and your friends. And so a lot of times, if you don't allow proxies at your table, whoever has the most expendable cash is gonna win that fucking power grind.
No, usually
9 times out of 10, right?
Yeah.
And that could be an issue. So I mean, we can talk about proxies and stuff, and then you have like ban list cards and stuff. So all these things will be at your table. You will home brew or not home brew, but you'll have your rules. Was it your house rules, right?
Your house
and stuff
rules
like
among
that.
your friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll be ban cards, and basically what's gonna happen is those are probably gonna develop with the interests of the cards. Jim had a friend, still has a friend. We have a friend whose deck was a little bit efficient when it came to doing EDH general damage.
Yeah.
And so for a while they probably still, if he still brought, was it Ural?
Yeah.
Was it Ural?
It's Ural.
Still,
yeah. It's Ural,
he still brings out Ural at this point. That's gonna be a thing, and that's kind of fine. Like Infect 2 is another one. That's like, it's an iffy. A lot of people, I think, have issue with how easily it is how easy it is to win with an EDH with Infect.
I do.
Yeah. Because Infect, you'll die at 10 counters, and that's regardless of standard or EDH. Now, you lose the, I have multiple creatures of the same, like I have multiple 1/1 drops that you'll see in Infect standard decks. Like Infect standard decks are gross too, because it's like half the damage you have to do to win. And so, EDH can be problematic. Be very problematic, especially if you're general. There's a flying general that has pay. I think it's pay 2 black, give it haste, pay 1 black, regenerate it, and it's a 4/4 flying Infect, and it's for 6. So now it's black. Black doesn't have a whole bunch of you've got like a couple cards I think that like give you double black mana, and they'd be like essential for that deck. But it's flying, and the thing with flying is an ability that falls into the evasion abilities, right? If you were doing a draft, you would have bread, BREAD, bombs, removal, evasion, aggro, and then dud. And so that's like your, was it acronym or whatever?
Yeah.
There's a banner. I see a banner on screen right now.
I'm just getting this up so we can look at some cards. But so in regards, so first maybe just to define proxies. Proxies are essentially when people don't want to actually buy the card. What they'll do is they'll go to the printer, they'll print out the card and glue it to the top of another card, and they're like, oh, I haven't actually bought this card, but I'm going to use it. And typically, among most house rules, it's fine so long as it's not something like a Black Lotus, which we'll get into later, which is like a $50,000 Magic card, which is absolutely broken. But speaking of banned cards, so I had a deck. I've had many decks that revolved around this guy. So this is the strongest creature in Magic, and he is a legendary creature. I guess he probably she. Sorry, I've misgendered Emrakul multiple times, and I've had my balls dragged through the glass every single time by all these guys. She is the strongest creature. I guess she could have been a general too at one point, couldn't she? Technically, it's colorless.
She's legendary?
Yeah, it's a legendary creature. Yeah. I guess somebody probably did at one point. The meme I ran with Emrakul, both in my 60 card decks and in my EDH deck, was through a blue card called Polymorph. So what would happen is I would get this. My general would usually be very low cost. In generals, you can cast them at any time. They're outside of your deck from the command zone. So as soon as I got Polymorph, which is a 4-cost blue spell, it allows me to search through my library, and the first creature card I hit, I just put down on the battlefield. Now, I would run a deck that didn't have any creatures in it other than Emrakul. So as soon as I cast it, Emrakul, a 15/15, would fly down on the field. Now, obviously, this card is strongest when you actually cast it. Now, 15 in the right-hand corner stands for 15 mana. So you have to have 15 land, or you have to have artifacts generating enough mana to where you can tap and get 15 mana in your mana pool. And he can't be countered by any spells, which is ridiculous. When you cast him, you take an extra turn, which is absolutely ridiculous. He is flying. Protection from colored spells, Annihilator 6. So protection from colored spells essentially means any removal that's colored, so blue, black, red, green, and white, can't get rid of him. And then Annihilator 6 means whenever he attacks, whoever gets attacked has to sacrifice 6 permanents. So that could be your land, your creatures, your artifacts. And then when he's put in a graveyard from anywhere, you shuffle your library, your graveyard into your library. So on top of all of that, he can be used to discard into your graveyard to shuffle it back into your library, which is... It was a stupid card, and he got banned in EDH for obvious reasons. But
He got banned in EDH.
he got banned in EDH. And among most house rules, I think that probably will be okay. I'm okay with him being banned. I had my fun with him. But yeah.
I've got one in my binder. I think I traded it from
What
Will
is it?
because her.
You do
Yeah,
have
her.
Emrakul. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna use her in Joda, so it's another cheaty way. So the Joda that I have, he's a 4 cost. I mean, he's 4 mana. 3 of those mana are his colors: red, white, and blue. USA, everyday USA. But he has an ability that if you have 5 or 1 of each color mana, so like I don't know what that, if you have like a sun mana or whatever they call it, you can just you can substitute that for any single spells like mana cost anytime you would cast it. So that's, I think Jim's Polymorph. It's like what you on turn 2. So you'd have like a turn 1, you'd play like an island. Your turn 2, you'd play like an island, unless you had any sort of other ramp. There's other artifacts and stuff. But then you get your general out, and then your Polymorph is a 4-cost spell, right?
There's a way. It depends how you want to go about it. Now you could go.
Well, what's like the minimum mana though that Emrakul would come out for, and like on what turn?
So Polymorph is a 4-cost, 3 colorless, 1 blue. Probably the cheesiest general to use is Combi, which is 2 blue. So what you would probably do is like an ideal, like godlike play would be to get a mana vault and a mana crypt down on turn 1. Turn 2, you put Combi down, and then turn 3, you get Emrakul down. There's a way if you also for some reason had mana vault, mana crypt, and Lotus Petal on turn 2, you could get Kami and then a Polymorph off and Emrakul at turn 2.
Yeah. So Emrakul like cheated out turn 2, so no extra turn. But with Joda, is it Jorah or Joda? I forget. USA every day though.
There you go.
That's 5 mana. He normally comes out like turn 4 where it's because I just have so much garbage in it that there's not enough ramp. But he comes out turn 4 and on turn 5 it's like hopefully I've done my mana right. And then if you have, so it would be turn 5 extra turn with the Annihilator and the fucking proc colors, and it's just like, oh, it just goes to the field. She just goes to the field, and everything's all fucked up. Yeah, and I couldn't do it. I was like, no, don't do it. No.
Well, so there's another another broken way to cast. I mean, this is the problem with EDH. Is EDH or Commander uses a lot of you can use any card from pretty much any set all the way back to like the early 90s, so long as they aren't banned cards within the format. Probably one of the more broken combos I know of in EDH that you could run, especially in blue, is through something called Isochron Scepter and Dramatic Reversal. So it's just a stupid combo if people want to put this in their deck. Now, in my deck, I don't usually do this because the game's going to be over like turn 3 or turn 4 if you built properly. It's just not fun. So you do Dramatic Reversal. So Dramatic Reversal is a blue instant spell. I guess you're not going to be able to read the card anyway, but that's what it looks like. And it states, untap all non-land permanents you control. Isochron Scepter allows, when you cast it for 2 mana, to imprint a card onto it. So what you can do is, let me get Isochron Scepter here. What you can do, if theoretically you had a good first hand, so we should probably explain, well, when you draw with Magic, you usually draw 7 cards at the start of your turn. So if you were able to get down, if you started the game, let's think about this. So you have Isochron Scepter, you have Dramatic Reversal, you have Soul Ring, and you have Mana Crypt, and Emrakul in your hand. What you would do is the first turn, I guess you'd put down your land, you'd put down Mana Crypt, then you can put down Isochron Scepter, imprinted with Dramatic Reversal. With your 1 mana, you'd put down Soul Ring, then you'd pay 2 mana to use Dramatic Reversal, which would then untap all your non-land permanents, which I think would untap Mana Crypt and Soul Ring. But anyway, all you would need is Soul Ring at that point. Or no, you would need more than Soul Ring, wouldn't you? Because you'd pay 2. Does Mana Crypt tap? Anyway, I've heard of this combo before, and yeah, this would also work too. See, Mana Crypt is so dumb, but it's $257. Yeah, this would work. So it would be a turn 1 Emrakul. You could play Emrakul on turn 1. And you cast him as well on turn 1. And when you
That is why she's banned.
That's why she's banned, yeah. That's exactly why she's banned.
Banned her up.
But yeah, which is not fun. Can I get the Mana Crypt up in the right way here? Okay, I guess
Fuck.
I kind of did it.
What's the other guy? The other guy that's banned is Griselbrand. I have an issue with Griselbrand being banned. I understand, okay, but he's so fucking cool. He's a black. What is he? He's like 8 to cast.
I'll get
So
him up
3
here.
black, and 5 or something like that. He's a 7/7 with lifelink and flying,
There it
and
is.
you pay 7 life, and you draw 7 cards, and so you can just pay 7 life a couple times. Like, so if you're thinking about EDH, right? So this guy's your EDH, so he's 8 cast, and you're mono black, right? He's your general, and so. I mean, he's a demon, so there's the Apostles too we were talking about. They're like a 1-drop, 1/1, and it's like sacrifice 10 or 11 of them and like tutor for a demon and put it on the battlefield.
Mhm.
So technically, in an Apostle deck with the right general, you could cheat out Griselbrand probably even easier. But it's just so fucking broken. You have 40 life in EDH, so once he hits the battlefield, it's 8. Let's say turn 4. If you have like you don't miss a land, you can get soul rings and stuff. So like, you get a mana rock. Let's say turn 4, you get double mana. And he comes out, and immediately you have 28 life and cards that you just throw away 28 life and get 28 cards. So you've already drawn 7. You've drawn, it's turn 4, so you've drawn at least 4 more. So 11, 28's 39-ish, right? You have 40 cards-ish into your deck. And so that's half your deck. And your general's on the field, he's flying 7/7 lifelink. And every time he hits, you're just going to get another 7 cards. Now you have to discard at the end of your hand, but there's lands, there's ways around it and stuff. He's so cool. I don't know. I like the demon cards. I had a demon deck once, and they're slow. You need to facilitate it a lot. So green is a color that has natural mana ramp and natural way. It just feels really good having a big like 8/8 creature on the field. Like there's ways to get it out. There's a lot of different strategies, and there's a lot of really good creatures that's like, not only is this an 8/8, but it does like something that goes good with my green combo. Black, the biggest creatures in black are like demons, I would say, on average. And I don't know, I've looked into a lot. Maybe there's a lot more like large horrors or something like that, but it's a lot harder to get them out. It kind of seems like the color's a little bit designed to just only really have one big creature, if any. But and that's where you get the green black, right? You get the green black demons. Maybe that's what I need to make next. But yeah, Grizzle Band, you know? They banned my brand. What's another banned one? Prophet of Kerfix. That's another one too.
Prophet
6
of
cost.
Kerfix, you said?
Yeah. 6 cost, blue green, or is it 5 cost? It's Seaborn Muse, but all your creatures have flash as well. But it's not Seaborn Muse for your artifacts or something. It's just creatures in land.
I wonder, I probably do have a couple ban cards in my deck. I haven't kept up to date on the ban list in EDH recently. I have Lord of Extinction on the field right now. I thought he was a funny one just in terms of powerful creatures in multiplayer. If you're doing a big multiplayer game with people, Lord of Extinction's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in all graveyards. And if you run a couple mill cards and mill everybody, like, you can get him up to an obscene, and he's green black, so you can probably get the mill out, and you can probably get some protection cards on top of him as well. And then he's gonna swing, and you could trample over somebody's entire life total probably pretty quickly in a multiplayer EDH game. He could probably be universally the largest creature in the game in multiplayer very easily. Yeah.
Now he doesn't have blue in him, but there's a lot of global mill in blue. So if someone's doing that, what's the other one? I was just thinking. So discard, he would run good with if you had like global discard. I had another idea about him, but
maybe we should go over some cards that we like some of our favorite cards.
Rhystic Study.
Rhystic Study. Yeah, that's a good one. Let's do that.
Rhystic. About it.
This is made for people that know Magic a little bit more, but we'll just go over some cards we really enjoy playing for the memes.
Do you pay the one? Do you pay the one though? But do you pay the one?
Pay the one.
You did pay the one.
Mystic Remora is another cheaper kind of crappier version of that. But yeah, it's another popular card. That's one any good blue EDH deck is going to run that. A card that is little known in blue that I would probably say sits at the top of my list just because of some of the plays that I've had with it over the years, is a card called... see if I can get it out here. Shit, I didn't mean to click on that. Whoops. Is a card called... if I can get it up here properly. Reigns of Power. So, Reigns of Power, this is worded differently in this one. Untap all creatures, exchange control of target creature you control and own, and... Oh, that's different. Oh, that's Reign of Power. Isn't that weird? That must be another one. Anyway... essentially untap all creatures you control and all creatures your target opponent controls. You and the opponent each gain control of all creatures and the other creature controls. So essentially it's really funny in blue. What I would usually run it with is a deck that doesn't have any creatures in it whatsoever. So, which is most of my decks. I don't have a lot of creatures, and I run like a card called Propaganda, which prevents people from attacking me. They pay a tax to attack me. And then what I'll do is I'll run another card called Altar of Dementia. And Altar of Dementia. And essentially what it allows you to do at instant speed is take control of everybody's creatures and then sack them. And so they never get them back. Because it just blanket sacrifice a creature. Target player puts a number. So when they're in your control, you can do that, and they mill. So some of our friends that we play with, one of our friends likes to usually build big armies or big Urals. And what we would do is he would have his big army and he'd send it to me thinking he's about to win. Instant speed, I flip it around, take all his creatures, mill them all, and then we'll mill him with them. And then they all go to the graveyard. And he'll have hexproof on them, he'll have protection. And with magic, if it is protection, a blanket take control if thing goes around, like a hexproof or a shroud, which usually protects people from targeting them. It's not because
it's global. Is what
global,
it is.
so it gets
so
around.
Even with Emrakul, like Emrakul would be destroyed by any color, destroy all creatures because it's a global effect, and he's a creature.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like return all creatures to their owner's hands. Emrakul would go back. She would go back to the thing.
Right. You just want to get hit with a sword of plowshare or something. Yeah, just be a global. But yeah, the globals are one way to get around that. But that is a personal favorite combo of mine. You want to mention some favorite cards of yours? Maybe I'll bring them up here before I move on some more.
Pila Pila, I think, just because he or Pila, was it Pika Pila? I forget.
No, it's Pila MTG, I think. Yeah.
Pila.
I remember us working with him that time. Was it with the enchantment on him?
You can do the enchantment on him. So the reason he's cool is he has this untap ability. Now, by himself, I guess there was a strategy where they would do something with him. But the way I use him in Kraj is I put a 1/1 counter on him, and then Kraj has this ability to untap. So, then all Kraj needs is the 2 mana and so he's a mana fixer too. So if Kraj can tap for 2 mana, which there are a number of elf druids that do, then you can pay that 2 mana, and then you can use the Pila Pila ability on Kraj to untap Kraj, and then you gain a mana of any color. So that can be blue or green. Now you net a mana, and then you tap him again for mana, and so he's infinite mana. And with Kraj, that infinite mana is infinite 1/1 counters, and then infinite uses of whatever other ability Kraj has on. So he's a very integral combo piece to that deck. And then the other thing is he's a 2/2, or is a 2-cost 1/1 flying. Like the 2-cost is not great, but the 1/1 flying is all right. So he has potential. And he's a scarecrow. I just think scarecrow cards are so cool. They don't do these weird things. A lot of them flip coins, which I don't really care for, but yes.
Yeah, he's got kind of cool art. And he's only 2-cost artifact, which means you can get him down with the fucking Soul Ring usually. So, yeah.
What's another one? I know Vigor is really good. He's in there too. He's a 3/3, and what he'll do is I think he's 6. He's a green creature. He'll protect all of your other creatures from taking any damage, and when they do, they get +1/+1 counters equal to that damage. So he's kind of he's an interesting guy, because if you're looking at someone who's not when you first have him played against you, if you're a green player, or you're just a creature heavy player, you don't really know what to do, because no one's gonna block with Vigor, right? He doesn't protect himself. So any enchantment that they have, Totem Armor was another thing that was cool. You get an enchantment, it would give it Totem Armor, and if the creature would to die, you would just remove the enchantment and regenerate it. So you saw a lot of that, and he just makes this fucking stupid army. Try to do one for each color. So we did Pila Pila's colorless, Vigor for green. I like Guile for blue. Guile is
Oh,
cool.
yeah, we'll get Guile up here. Guile is
He's a
extremely
yeah,
obnoxious.
he's a 6/6. He is it two creatures have to block him or three? It's like stupid. He's so dumb. He's like an incarnation, and so
I can see him.
when he dies, you put him back into your library. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that
Yeah,
one's
three
in fucking French or something. Just a sec,
three fucking creatures.
Yeah.
Three creatures need to block this piece of shit.
Yeah.
And anytime you counter a spell, you get to play the spell. It's your spell now, and he's blue,
Yeah.
and like he's a blue player dream come true, like wet dream in a fucking card. And the other thing is he is such a big honking creature. You don't see a lot of that in blue, especially mono blue. And
Yeah.
he's cost 3 blue mana. So one thing about the cards, when you look at their mana cost, 3 blue mana means that he's really hard to play in like a 5-color, 3-color deck, right? Like, because
Right.
you need to have 3 dedicated mana. It's half of his mana, like 6 is whatever, but that 3 mana means consistently wise, he is best in a monocolor deck. You don't have to do it, but whatever. He's a 6/6, and then yeah, and then so that's silly for blue. For red, one of my favorite cards. Oh, what is his name? I gotta be here. He is a 10/10 giant.
What is his name? I'll look him up. I'll get
I
this
don't know
one.
his name. But 10/10 red giant. And when he dies, destroy all permanents.
Oh god.
Here he is. Bearer of the Heavens. When Bearer of the Heavens dies, destroy all permanents at the beginning of the next end step. So you have a moment. He's an 8 cost 10/10. So it's interesting. He's red. He's huge. He's gonna like if you block him and kill him, all your lands and all your creatures are gone. Right now, maybe you can do something about it, and stuff like that. But all the opponent stuff is gone too. But typically with this guy, you'd be ready. You'd have like dark steel shit, and
Yeah.
and then or maybe you'd have something where you could flicker, like if you could flicker all your lands for one turn or something like that. So maybe in a red blue or a red white. But I thought he was so neat because he's a real fuck you to everybody. Imagine you play him like turn 12 in an EDH game where somebody has like 30 lands on board, right? And then he dies or you sacrifice him, right? And the game just fucking sets. It's like Karn, that Karn's planeswalker that resets the game.
Any land destruction in late in an EDH game is just like such a want to slam your head off the fucking table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
White cards. I mean, you could say Avacynth. Avacynth is so broken. 8 cost, 8/8 angel. All of your permanents are indestructible, so it goes really good with that Bear of the Heavens, and that's actually what I run in this deck here.
Who's a
But-
Guardian Angel? Is that Avacyn?
Avacyn, yeah, I think.
Guardian Angel, yeah. Prevent all damage to be dealt to another creature. Yeah, prevent all damage to be dealt to target player. This turn.
No, it's Avacyn of Hope. Then I guess it is
Avacyn of Hope.
Angel of Hope.
Okay.
Avacyn, Angel of Hope. Yeah.
Oh, I hit the wrong one again.
She. Also, anything Nico Bolas is pretty cool, but
It's weird. Why did that? Is that a bigger card or something?
these are just creatures too. Yeah, yeah. Flying Vigilance, Avacyn, Angel of Hope, and other permanents you control are indestructible for 8. I don't know if we could see her there. Abby.
I got an alternate art version. It's kind of cool, actually, up there.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Flying Vigilance, indestructible for usually, yeah. Yeah, it's
I
pretty
would,
silly.
I would say that's one of the favorite white cards I have, of course. I mean, there's tons more, but I'm just picking like the big A-listers, right? Like the fucking A's. I guess the artifact is kind of not an A-lister, but I like him.
Like what?
I personally
what's,
like him.
What's your? This is be a good one. What is your favorite artifact? If you had to pick an artifact that you've got the most enjoyment out of using.
Menarch.
What?
Memnarch.
Oh, Memnarch? Okay.
Memnarch, yeah.
Okay.
Got them all. Mine. They're all mine.
I'll put Memnarch up. Second here.
Memnarch is my favorite artifact.
Yeah.
I mean, Soul Ring is
wizard.
like definitely one of the best artifacts.
Soul
like
Ring's
non-creature
kind of like
artifact
a
is-
given, yeah. But like,
yeah, it's a staple.
Yeah, so that's he's very strong. He controls target artifact. Target permanent becomes an artifact. So you can just essentially take everything. You can take pretty much everything on the field. Yeah, he's a pretty greasy one. And in EDH,
with this, because he has abilities that require the mana symbols, you are allowed to use blue if he is the general. So it's like, he's nice as a main.
Yeah, he's a pretty classic steal everything kind of guy. Mine definitely has to be Vidalcan Shackles is one that I have used in many multiplayer games. And it's funny, it's not a very well-known card. I've had a lot of people who played Magic. Actually, that is the very card. So that's the Masters one. I've actually got that card right there. That's the one I use. Actually, the holograph's only in the corners, which is extremely disappointing. But it's really good in blue, just kind of off the bat usually. So essentially, you pay 3 to get down, you pay 2, and you can gain control of something that is power equal to the amount of islands you control. So in a mono blue deck, you can usually, by the time turn 3 to your 4 comes around, most generals aren't that strong. So you can just kind of nab somebody's general and then kind of hold it hostage and do what you want with it. Enchant it, sacrifice it for mill. Just even earlier on in the game, taking someone's general is pretty greasy thing to do anyway. That will usually kind of turn the tide against that person if you grab his general right off the bat as soon as he casts it. It's just kind of and then you can do lots of dirty things if you have if you get a combo going with dramatic reversal and milling. You can just pretty much take every creature on the field once you get enough blue mana down, just mill them all. There's a lot of dumb combos with it, but that's probably my most used card over the years, playing mono blue. A lot of good memories with it. But another, I'll put a second one in here, which is probably my second most used card, is something called Sensi's Divining Top. That's a very good one. It's kind of obnoxiously, these cards are like larger. I don't know why they're larger. But anyway, that is it there. There's it there, the exact same card. But it's a 1-drop, which is great. You pay 1, you look at the top 3 cards of your library, which is like a brainstorm, put them back in any order. And then if you tap it, you can draw a card, then put that on top of its own library, on the library. And it is very good. It synchronizes well with some other popular blue cards. If you can reduce the cost of the card down to 0, there's a card called Future Sight, which lets you play with the top card of your library revealed, and it allows you to play the top card of your library. So essentially, what it does is with Sensi's Divining Top, Future Sight, and anything that reduces the cost of Sensi's Divining Top to 0, you can draw your whole deck with it, which is very strong, obviously. And it's kind of like a sneaky way to do it too. And then Sensi's Divining Top on top of that is just a really great early game card to get out. If you get that in your first hand, you're fucking set. It's great. It helps a ton in setting stuff up. So yeah, it's I've got a lot of use out of it over the years. Yeah.
The in the format that we play, like we often play, we'll do EDH, but rarely we'll do 1v1. So when our decks are built, and actually most of the people that I personally play with, their decks are kind of built with multiplayer in mind. And what's interesting about Magic the Gathering is you can do like a targeted, it's got that sort of versatility. So certain spells get a lot better when there's 4 opponents, right? So like take control of 1 creature for each opponent, or each opponent sacrifices a creature, each opponent discards 2 cards, or Extenuate deals X damage to each opponent and you gain X life. Like that's a huge one. It's black, And anyways, so moving back to that green guy that you showed that has everything in the graveyard. So one
Yeah.
thing that will become very, very popular, and we talked about it already earlier, is global destruction, global removal. So we've got whites, we've got blacks, we've got blues. So Cyclonic Rift is the big blue one. Damnation, I think, is the big black one. Planar Cleansing, and there's Fumigate is another white one. Just destroy all creatures, get them all off the board, right? This will become the fucking norm, okay? And then
Yeah.
you'll get some creatures which are like they're indestructible, right? So those will you'll have targeted exile removal for those creatures, and that's just the way things go. So our decks, when we're talking about Magic, a lot of times we're considering not really what deck is going to win in a 1v1 situation on turn whatever, but
Yeah.
we're looking for longevity, we're looking for alternate win states, and then of course, what is most fun. We play Magic to have fun. We don't really
Right.
do it just to win. If it does win, it's a great time, but
Right.
the engagement is always excellent. And some people say if you don't hate your friends at the end of a Magic the Gathering game, you're not doing it right. Well, there's some truth to that too, because in the intensity of that match, there's been so many Magic the Gathering matches. I would say like, I don't know if I want to say 50, because a lot of times, sometimes you get mana fucked and you're just blown out, so you don't really remember those ones. You're just kind of out of the game because you didn't get the draw card. But so many games go, okay, I do this and I won, and the opponent's like, fuck, next turn I won. There's nothing you can
Right.
do next turn and I won. And like, well, yeah, but I did this on this turn and I won, and you can't stop it. And it's just like, oh, it's right along the line,
Yeah.
and it happens over and over again, and so it's always exciting. It's fun. There's two-headed giant. There's all different ways to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just winding down because we're at like, where we at, like hour and
We got
hour and a
30
half
minutes.
almost now.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Oh, we
For
got 30 minutes now.
Yeah,
Okay,
30
I'm
minutes.
gonna have to take a pee, and I'll let you talk about.
Well, I was just
Hive
gonna talk
Mind.
about it. Talk about it. Yeah, talk about Hive Mind and two. So we recently played a game at, I guess, a buddy of Aliki's, and me and a mutual buddy of ours, we did two-headed dragon. And essentially, what that means in EDH or any format is you've got we had 6 people playing, so we broke up into groups of 2, and you build these EDH decks, and when you play a multiplayer, you can't really go straight for like, okay, well, this is going to happen on this turn, and on this turn this is going to happen, and on this turn I'm going to get Ural out, and then I'm going to throw an enchantment on it and I'm done, or etc. Any big creature, you have to kind of, if you're building your deck for multiplayer, you have to kind of consider a couple things. You have to consider that other people are going to probably respond to an obvious threat very quickly. You're going to be playing against a lot of different colors, so somebody's going to have a removal somewhere. So you're going to have to craft your win con or your win cons in a way, probably, I mean, if you really want to think this through, you're going to have to really try and craft it in a little bit of a sneaky way. Like, you're going to be sneaky with things. Like, so, like, the deck that, I mean, I built many decks over the last, like, 10 years that we played. But I've kind of come to this deck now where it's kind of like non-threatening, like inconspicuous, like it doesn't really do a whole lot. I pulled up a card here called Hive Mind. The combo that I brought up, the two-headed dragon here recently, it was actually with Fun, or Galen, who comes in our Discord occasionally in our live streams. We had got, you combine your decks almost together, so we have our 2 decks that will sync, and we were just about to win. And what we were going to do was we were going to mill ourselves. So I had a card and he had a card. I'd Traumatize, which is a card I have in my hand here. Actually, it's also one of my favorite cards, and if you can't read the text on it, but it essentially says target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded down into their graveyard, and we were going to use that and another card that Galen had to mill ourselves down to 0, and we had a card on the field that allowed us, once we had no cards left in our library, we'd win the game, and we were going to traumatize ourselves, essentially, me, and once I lost, we lose, obviously. And then but Alex and or Leaky and his teammate Rob had just won right before us. But in multiplayer, when you're crafting these decks, like again as Leaky alluded to, some cards become a lot better than others. So like this one, Hive Mind obviously was meant to be played in a multiplayer setting, but in a big EDH game. So like we play fairly big 6-7. Sometimes you can get Leaky used to go playing like 12, 13, 14 player EDH games where it's like a 7-8 hour fucking long Magic game that goes on for like 13 hours, and it can get pretty intense. And a card like Hive Mind coming down is pretty ridiculous. So you can read it here, it's self-explanatory. But whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, each other player copies that spell. Each of those players may choose new targets for the copy. So you can imagine, I was just telling them, Leaky, about some of the large games that people play in EDH, like the games you used to play with 12, 13 people. Like you can get into, so yes. If you threw a Hive Mind down in a situation like that, right? And I don't know what it would be, but some kind of removal or even like a polymorph or any sorcery or instant, and then 13 people have to also cast. It gets pretty chaotic, and it's just funny. So like that's a card I'm gonna include into my deck here soon because it's just the scenarios that play out. And it kind of what those cards do is they use other people's mechanics against them, and that's something that like people will try and like create these mechanics within their own deck and use those to win. But one of the best ways I've found to stifle someone is to use their own mechanics against them, or do something like a Hive Mind, or take control of their stuff, or copy their stuff, and that'll usually stop it. But it also just creates a chaotic mess. And like for me, I don't really ever care too much about winning the game. My contribution is usually just trollery, just fuckery, and things like that. I get off on that. I love doing something like a Hive Mind.
Having a good time.
Just having a good time. I'm not doing anything. I'm just having a good time. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Sometimes you can run the cards, like if your win strategy is like what's a wording? There's some cards where it's like you can't lose life. Is that a thing? Lose because damage and
there's Phyrexian on life, which there's Phyrexian on life, which
is that the one where you get poison counters?
Maybe where you can't die and then you get -1 counters or whatever.
So that's one where it's like but what's another? Okay, so like mill, right? So say your deck strategy is mill. I'm gonna mill everybody, but they have Emrakul in their deck. Well, what happens when you mill Emrakul? It goes from the top of the deck to the graveyard, and then it goes in the graveyard from anywhere. So you shuffle the graveyard into the deck, right? Kind of stifled your things. That's one of the reasons why we like to keep our decks a little fluent or whatever. And then as Jim was saying too, when you have 6 opponents, when you have 4 opponents, if your strategy is to kind of copycat a win condition, you have 4 options of that.
Yes.
And that's very fun. There's this one card, I forget what it is, but it's like it has an X cost, which an X cost is it's a colorless mana value which you can determine yourself. As many mana as you have to put into it, you can do that. And it says for X, destroy or it says destroy like X artifacts or creatures. And for each artifact or creature destroyed this way, its controller searches through their library for an artifact or creature and then reveals it and puts that card into play. So you can do that. This is an interesting thing because like maybe you have a creature that you hate, right? You can do like a gym strategy where you're going to destroy your own creature and then bring in something new, random, right? Then you also have it bringing in the other people's creatures. So it's like there's fun stuff. I think red actually has a lot of that chaotic nonsense, like do something at random. There's is it a elemental? Oh no, it's an enchantment where it's like at the beginning of each player's each combat phase, whoever's attacking gets an elemental, but the elemental can't attack you or something like that. Yes. Anyways, yeah. The dynamic nature of this game is, I don't know, I wouldn't say unmatched because I do play Dungeons and Dragons and you can get pretty dynamic, but I think the order that comes with the cards and the rule set really is it's you're probably gonna get a quicker dynamic feel out of your gaming experience out of Magic than Dungeons and Dragons, depending on your DM. But
Mhm.
I'll digress from that. Um. Yes. Black spells. We talked about Griselbrand, so that'll be the big black guy, and the green guy. I don't know
There's
the best green creature I know.
Here's a good black card that I loved always was a card called Surgical Extraction.
Right.
So the Phyrexian, this might be relevant too because there's a Phyrexian set that just came out. But years ago when it first came out, it had this broken mechanic where instead of paying mana, you could just pay 2 life to cast these cards. So in 60 card decks where you have multiples of cards, Surgical Extraction was extremely dirty because it essentially allowed you to take a card that's in a graveyard and then go through their hand and library and remove all those cards. So if you use black to look at their hand and discard the card that is their win con, you could then just in that same instant use Surgical Extraction and then remove all those cards from their deck. But it can be used, it's like a greasy, even in EDH, if somebody has this card, like a Mana Crypt or some card or a Polymorph, or you can be like, if you know the deck that you're going up against, you can be like,
Mind over matter, you know.
Oh yeah, something stupid like that. Yeah. There's another card too I have in here that it's another fun kind of multiplayer where you can look through an opponent's deck and take any artifact out of their deck that you want for 5 mana and put it on the field under your control. So kind of a similar thing, like you're taking another deck and then you're taking control of it for the time that you have it. But yeah, those are ones I like. Another big green creature, she said.
I'm trying to think. I don't know, like
the worm, whatever his name is, the giant worm.
The engulfing slagworm. Is that the one?
No, he's
a 7/7. He like swallows anything he blocks.
World Spire Worm.
I don't know if I've had that.
Have you seen him? I had him. I drew him actually out of a pack once. World Spire Worm. I'll pull him up here. We can look at him. He costs 11 mana. He's 15/15 trample. When World Spire Worm dies, put 3 5/5 Green Worm tokens on the battlefield. When he's put it in a graveyard, shuffle it in his owner's library. So he's like a green Emrakul kind of.
Yeah. That is a green thick boy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous because when he dies, you get 3 5/5 tokens on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So you got
and
15
he's
damage.
trampled. So like you're basically you're putting him on the field, you're turning him sideways, and then they are facing 15 damage. They can't stop it, and if they kill it, the next turn they're dealing with 3 5/5s. But what did it kill? Yeah, what did it kill when it first ran into the thing? Right, like.
Yeah. Well, and then you're when he dies, you're shuffling your graveyard into your library.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you're just hitting the reset button. It's like, oh great.
Yeah.
So
Just getting them back.
He's a pretty greasy boy. Yeah.
He is pretty greasy.
Yeah. I didn't have him. I've never really run green aside from Emrakul deck I made, but he'd be kind of a fun one to run. He'd be
I
a
feel
big
like
boy.
elves. I did elf tribal. There's like the renegade leader there. So there's a sorcery spell called Overrun, which gives all your creatures +3/3 and trample until the end of turn, and he has that as an ability for I don't know how much mana. But then he also can regenerate target elf. So if you have enough mana, and elves are good at making mana, then you can give 2 overruns, give all your elves +6, and then if you have any mana left over, you can regenerate whichever one they kill. I mean, it's gonna be like you're gonna be running 7/7s at them, and so yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Man-gen artifacts. What else haven't we talked about yet? We talked about like milling. There's Lab Maniac, so you can technically get around milling. Like Lab Maniac is a card that says if you would lose the game when you draw a card with your library has none, instead you win. So that's kind of an interesting strat.
There's a Planeswalker Chase Wielder of Mysteries that is the same thing, which I argue is he's only 4 cost. He's almost a better Lab Maniac.
Yeah.
Planeswalker's a bit harder to remove.
New
I
lab
guess
menu.
the card types we didn't really go over that well, like creatures, instants,
Features instant sorceries, artifacts.
sorceries. Yeah, but there's definitely there's a group of. I mean, obviously, mana cost is something to consider, and land is something to consider too. So, like, higher mana cost cards are harder to cast, obviously, because you need more mana and you need more land or mana generation to cast them. There's a couple interesting cards that were released a couple sets ago that work in EDH and Legacy. They're packed cards is what they're called. So one that I always keep in my decks is a blue deck is called Pact of Negation, which is a 0 cost counter spell. So it can get you usually out of a pinch, and you can kind of use it to trick people to debate, because you can tap yourself out and then say, "Oh, nothing left," and people don't remember.
And they go,
then,
finally, now I'm playing my spell.
Right, and then
you're
counter
like,
spell,
oh,
see ya. Yeah, but then the thing is, at the beginning of your next upkeep, you have to pay 5, you lose the game. There are some janky ways where I think you can use this to get other people to cast it, and then they don't have 5 blue mana, they lose the game. There's a way to get people to bait them with. There's other packs, like, well, there's a black pack, and if you don't pay the toll, you
that
go.
spell. What's that spell where it's like whenever a player casts a spell, or it's like a curse. It's whenever this player casts a spell, each other player gets a copy of it.
Oh yeah, I have that in my deck too. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that would work. You like Summoner's Pact, and everyone's Summoner's Pact, but if they don't have green to pay, they're just out.
Actually, yes. Curse of Echoes. Whenever enchanted.
Echoes, yeah.
Whenever enchanted player casts an instant or sorcery spell, each other player. May copies. No, May. There is a way.
Maze.
There's a way with the black pack to get it off, where you get dicked. But these 0 cost cards. This is just a little tip here, I guess, for anybody who's watching that actually knows Magic. That is an interest in it. Another favorite card of mine is a land card, and it's not really too obscure, but it's called Tolaria West. So I love these mechanics. This mechanic came out a couple years ago called Transmute. So what it essentially, it's really good for EDH, because the game's a little bit slower. But what it does is
like a tutor, basically, right?
It's a tutor, but Tolaria West is great because what it can tutor for is any 0 cost card. So you can go and you can tutor for a Mana Crypt. You can tutor for a Lotus Petal. You can tutor for Ancestral Vision, which is a suspend card, any suspend card. You can tutor for a Pact of Negation. So it's really great. I've got a couple other tutor cards for 2, and it allows you to go not for like an instant sorcery creature artifact. It just goes for the mana cost. So I've got tutors for 0, 1, 2. And then there's another one that can tutor for 3, but I don't have it. But so 0, 1, 1, and 2, I can tutor for those mana costs, and it allows you to go, and I got a lot of those low cost cards in my deck. So in EDH, it allows you to kind of get what you want when you want it. Just increases the chance to draw those.
Which is huge, because I think I think it was Galen that was saying, like, typically your EDH deck, even if it's like really good, it's only gonna win like 30% of the time, given like the draw thing. So that's why you get tutors, which a tutor is just, if anyone doesn't know, it's just you're searching your library for a thing and then putting it into your hand is typically a tutor, and then if it tutors to the battlefield, it goes right to the battlefield or tutor to the graveyard sometimes too, even. But yeah, so any tutoring thing you can do in EDH is like huge. Yes. There's like a black 1 cost one, which I think is the most broken. Is it banned? Might be banned. I don't know. But
is that what's it called again? Not Demonic Tutor. Is it Demonic Tutor?
it is Demonic Tutor, actually.
Is it Demonic
I think so.
Tutor?
Or is it Demonic Tutor? There's Diabolical Tutor and Demonic Tutor. I think
No,
maybe...
so Demonic, that's kind of cool art.
Demonic's the 4 cost, is it?
Demonic's the 2 cost. Search your
Demonic's
library for a
2
card,
cost.
put that card in your hand. Is a Diabolical Tutor. Diabolic Tutor? No, Diabolic's 4.
4 cost.
Yeah, we could look for it.
Maybe there's just Demonic Tutor. Maybe that's the cheapest one. But the black one might be to the graveyard.
Oh, there's
Okay.
sorry, there's Enlightened Tutor, which is a 1-cost artifact or enchantment. Goblin Tutor. Oh,
There's
Vampiric Tutor. Oh no, sorry, it's Vampiric Tutor. Search your library for a card, then shuffle, and put that card on top. You lose 2 life. Yeah, Vampiric Tutor is.
right.
is
So yeah, puts it right on top. Yeah. Yeah, so those cards will definitely facilitate better plays on that. Though the biggest thing is going to be your mana with EDH, but you just run a solid color. Look at this bad boy right here, solid color. He's a 6-cost general. He's a 5/5. He's got a kicker for 3, so for 9 mana, he comes into play with 5/1/1 counters on it. When he attacks alone, double his power and toughness until the end of turn. So
Jesus Christ.
he's a 20/20 general for 9. And in EDH, you know what that means. He does not have trample, though. It's the only thing. He's a fucking uncommon. Not a rare, not a mythic. Just an uncommon.
Some of them are well. My Sensei's Divining Top is an uncommon too from the Japanese set or whatever. I mean, which is a ridiculous uncommon. Like this, like one of the stronger artifacts like in the game. Honestly, up there.
Sometimes they get reprinted with a different like common or uncommon value. But
It was
I don't know
reprinted
about
with
Senses.
Mythic. Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yes. Well, we could probably do deck. Deck. What would you call them? Show and tells, for lack of a better word, all day. Should we talk at all about Wizards of the Coast, and or should we just leave it with the game? I don't know.
We certainly could if you want to. Yeah, we could do that. We could talk about the controversy. I mean, you know a bit more about the controversy than me, I think.
So, I mean, we'll try to keep it just with the game. So we'll talk, like, we had some zero costing spells up there. So we'll just talk about maybe the implication of certain like mechanics of the games and stuff like that, and how like Wizards. So just for the overall of the discussion, they kind of want to do a flashy, like high power set every other whenever, right? And so what happens is you get these high power sets that come out and they have to like go back and ban like so many cards in modern. And then you also get things happening where like we won't touch on the investor stuff. So like Black Lotus and then that general Black Lotus that came out, just a little bit of an iffy thing because like the idea is that a Black Lotus is so good they'd never reprint it so it will hold its value. It's kind of almost like, I don't know a lot about the investing, but I'm assuming that's kind of just like a promise of the company to the investors. It's like, hey, keep investing in us and we won't fuck your card product investment over here over. But then they make a Black Lotus for what it's worth, but it only works in a commander deck. So it's like it does the Black Lotus, but for any color that your commander could cast. It could be could have or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. A little sleazy. But free spells in Magic. And Jim talked about the Pact. And actually I think you highlight one of like that sort of mindset, that's sort of like thinking of like, how do we get Pact cast from my opponent's hand so that they can't play the card. We turn this card into
an offensive spell.
You turn into a you lose the game right now card, right? The reason it's possible is probably because it's a 0. Like, or I don't even know if it is possible, but if it would be possible, it'd likely be because it's 0 cost. But yeah, there's a lot of other versions of free costing stuff. So like Convoke is a free cost mechanic. What are some other ones? The Phyrexia was one where you can pay the life instead of the mana. And see, I'm not huge into the modern. Galen actually could probably enlighten us more about like the stuff, but there's been backlash from the community about the sort of way in which Wizards is taking the game and stuff. And I don't know about the recent ones because I don't keep up on it, but that is, I mean, it's a table discussion in your play group, but then when it comes to like I want to play Magic at like Modern Night, it's this whole kind of new thing. Again, not super into it because of how much moolah and how much research and meta has to be kind of done. But yeah, no, free costing is definitely an issue. I think if cards get banned, typically it has to do with some sort of like, you know, that's how it's unbalanced. It's unbalanced because you no longer have to do the thing that it's setting in front of you to do. Like, you no longer have to pay the 15 for Emrakul. He comes out with 5, and it's like, okay.
Right.
That's another thing too. I mean, I guess for the company, really, all the controversies in the prints and stuff, and the, what is it, the Masters editions? What were they? What were those box sets that they were bringing out? I bought one from the vault. Okay, so there's from the vault, but then there was the dual deck Masters or something like that. I forget what they were called. Will bought a couple of them, I think. I think they were intended to be like collector's items, and they're like, I don't know, it's just money greed, grubbing, you know, the whole money greed grubbing thing. Just proxy it all. I don't know.
Yeah, there was definitely well, there's some people being, what was it, in regards to the reprints, weren't some people pissed off? Though the 30th anniversary booster packs is why they're pissed off. Did you hear about this? I'm just reading about this here now. So the most famous and powerful cards, many fans are not happy about this.
I think I remember now.
Yeah, a special release that includes many of the card's oldest and most powerful cards. Has been controversial.
Is that the one that had the Moxies? Or did they? I don't know if they reprinted Moxies.
Okay, so they're releasing the product in sets of 4 packs of 15 cards each, costing $999.
Jesus.
So the reserve list is already controversial. A Black Lotus could be in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So, as far as Magic the Gathering's direction and the people at the helm, can't really say. I'm going to sit here and tell you guys that investing all of your money into this game is a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't advocate for the purchasing and reselling of Magic cards because they're cardboard. That's the whole thing. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have the word. I don't have faith in the durability of the product. Like it like molds and stuff. And yeah, I get like there's a short-term gain, and I think the market had a little bit of a oopsie there a little bit ago, but you know, it's I would say just be very cautious with what you're spending $60 on, because
yes,
you know, you can proxy some $60 cards, and it's fine. I mean, now $160 cards, and maybe your friends get annoyed, but anyways.
Yeah, well, you got to be. That's the thing. It's sorry. This anniversary, these cards aren't tournament legal. They're not playable. Some people are paying $1,000. It's literally just to like put on display. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it can be a serious money pit. And like we were alluding to earlier, if you're getting into the game, just be careful with it, because you can dump a lot. Like you can spend.
It's nicknamed Cardboard Crack. Like it has like globally nicknamed Cardboard Crack.
Yeah, because people get deep into it, and you're spending like $200+ on one card, like a Mana Vault, for $250 or more actually, to accelerate your deck. And then in games like in any multiplayer setting, especially with EDH, you don't need to obsess so much over that kind of acceleration, because generally you don't want to cause that. You want the game to kind of play out a bit. Like, you don't want to be doing turn 1, turn 2 wins in a multiplayer EDH after everybody's just got all their fucking shit set up. So, yeah, don't be a piece of shit. You know, Yeah, but I guess that's just people. You'll find that on your own when you're getting into the game and you're getting your friend group into the game. If the game still exists in a couple of years, there's a lot of controversy around Wizards of the Coast right now. They've made a lot of bad decisions, but the game, in one way or another, I think will survive into the future. Whether it's owned by Wizards of the Coast or not, who knows? But yeah, it's a wonderful card game. It's like adult Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are people that play competitive Pokemon. I think the issue with competitive Pokemon is that its market is not influenced by competitive Pokemon. It's influenced by like what looks the coolest and who do the kids want the most.
Yeah, it's not really as well thought out, and like the art too with Magic. Like anybody who's into art that loves art, there's so many great like. And the background we're using for this podcast is actually I think it's a land card. It's some kind of MTG card. It was a background. But there's like so many brilliant artists that contribute beautiful art to the game, and it is a way of immortalizing that, buying a card, and it's fine to spend a bit of money on a card you like and stuff. But it's cool. It's like a mix of like fantasy and card games and art together in a multiplayer format. You and your friends can have a couple drinks too, a couple smokes too, and just have a good time. So yeah, I guess I don't know. Does that wrap up the talk on MTG for now? I guess.
Yeah, MTG. Yeah, guys, if you like MTG, you want to hear us, so I can hit up another MTG thing. You want to see some deck demos? We see some real deck demos or whatever. Just let us know. You like follow us. You can find this recording on Spotify. We are on TikTok. We get Instagram. We get the medias going.
Yeah, we're getting it out. We're getting the clips up on the social media. We've got some branding going to be coming out. Once we're getting the branding set up this week. This is the week of February 9th. We're going to do some merch up. So hopefully we're going to try and like properly branch this out. And I guess probably you guys, if we end up doing this, will see this in retrospect on the Spotify. But yeah, check out the Spotify. We got like fucking 30 episodes cataloged on there back to like when we first started doing this. So yeah, let us know the future. Our plans, I guess, going forward. This is season 3, isn't it? So this is the beginning of a new era. We're definitely going to want to do, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to do more on location stuff. Try and do some on location like video stuff, maybe even playing like a Magic game, multiplayer games. Like we're going to start streaming some more, doing some more of that content in person with us. So
I challenge the professor.
Challenge the professor.
I challenge him.
The Tolarian Academy.
Tolarian Academy, I challenge you. Bring your Moxies.
Bring your Moxies.
Bullshit Moxies turds.
Yes.
EDH, or I'll just build a standard. No, draft my cube.
There you go.
Draft my cube.
No Tolarian Academy.
It's a low power cube.
Yeah, the card itself is banned. That was one of my favorite cards until I found it was banned also in EDH. Anyway, all right, everybody. Thank you for joining us again.
Shadow says bye.